Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm glad that I'm able to actually be back here on the screen. And for those of you at the church, I will be with you soon. But for now, we have the screen. And if you have any questions or anything that you need, please make sure to send it my way via text or email, whichever it is. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to comment if you enjoy this message. So today we're going to go over Genesis chapter 12. We're going to be seeing a story of redemption, actually. A story that showcases that everyone has shortcomings, but we can always overcome those shortcomings. I don't know about you, but I believe that everyone has a defining feature. Sometimes that can be a physical feature. It can be something that people recognize you for. But sometimes it can be within your maybe emotions or feelings, or a saying that you have maybe within your family, or a way that you cook. Everyone has that one defining feature. And as we journey through the book of Genesis with patriarch, the leader Abraham, patriarch is a word that pretty much means he was the leader at the time. And essentially we have this idea that Abraham is a great guy. And a lot of us believe that. He was a father of faith. He took the deciding moments. We have read a couple of the stories, but I want to invite you to this journey with Abraham and to look at it with fresh eyes. That's what we're going to try to do today and over the next couple of weeks. So again, open your Bibles, make sure that you have a pen or pencil and you want to write down a couple of different things. And we're going to be learning from Abraham or Abram at this point, because we see a transition. We see that something happens in his life and that needs to change. Everyone has something that we need to change, and Abraham does it as well. But let me first start telling you a story that it's about me. So essentially, like I said, everybody has a defining feature. Maybe it is the way you laugh, maybe it is the way you say a specific word, or maybe it is your voice. For me, it is my voice. A lot of people in the past, in my younger years and my teenage years, and especially at the church, they used to know me because of my voice. It's not that I have an angelic voice or that I have something amazing about it. No, it's just like anyone else's voice. But my voice is very loud. So I can project my voice quite high. Right now I'm modulating it. I've learned how to do that over time. But when I was younger, I did not know how to do that as well. And sometimes I may falter here and there, but my modulation was very low and I had to do a lot of things. And honestly, my voice was not the most pleasant. Every time that you listened to me, you thought that I was on a screaming match with someone else, or that I was trying to demean someone else because of just the way that my voice projected. So in my early years, a lot of people used to know me because of my voice, not because of the way that I treated them or the way that I spoke or the way that I preach, but because of my voice. And again, we all have that one defining feature about ourselves. Maybe it's the way that we dress, or it's the way that we talk, or whatever it is. People know us because of something that we did, something that we are, something that we try to do very often. I don't know what it is, or maybe it's a hobby that you like. But everybody has that one defining feature. I'm happy to report that my defining feature, hopefully now, is not my voice, but something else, and that I have learned how to modulate it. And we're going to see in the story today that Abram has a very important, very interesting defining feature in his life, even when God calls him. So Genesis chapter 12, open up with me and let us see what the call of Abram has to say when God calls him. And it says in verse 1, it says, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So this is quite an interesting part of the passage. Here we see that Abram is being called by God. Now, Abraham lived in a polytheistic society. He is part of a society that has a lot of gods. So another one all of a sudden shows up and tells him, "Follow me, and I will give you a lot of blessings." Now, this is not something uncommon for Abraham at this point in time. It's kind of the equivalent of a stranger coming to our house and pretty much saying, like, "Hey, follow me, I will give you a lot of money." A lot of us will not go, but Abraham decides to go. Now, he decides to take a risk. This is the first defining feature of Abraham. Abraham takes a lot of risks. So as we continue throughout the story, see this pattern in his life, not only in the first chapters of the book of Genesis or of his story, but also in other chapters as well. But again, he's someone that takes a lot of risks because he is going somewhere that he doesn't know, with a God he does not know, a person that he does not know, and for blessings that he is not seeing. So he's taking a lot on this one God that is saying, "Hey, come with me, I will show you the way." Let us continue with verse 4. It says, "So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran, and they set out to go to the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place at Shechem, the oak of Moreh, at the time that the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, 'To your offspring I will give you this land.' So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill country on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on, still going towards the Negev." Now we continue with a little bit of more of background story. We see Abram having a little bit of a discussion, going here, going there. But something that we have missed at this point is, why is he traveling all of these places? Well, number one, he is going with a certain directive from God. But there's another thing, another motivating factor that we get to see in the next verse that allows us to know that this journeying on, this going from place to place, relocating, maybe making his wife mad because, 1 month I'm staying here and another month I'm staying there. How are we supposed to settle, right? That's the goal of life, to settle and have a comfortable life for a lot of us. But we see here Abram going from place to place, taking a lot of risks, going here and there. But there's a reason why. And in the next verse, we get to see that there was a famine in the land. So the moving of Abram from place to place is not only because of the directive of the Lord, but it's because he's trying to find for a place so that their people can survive. As you see, he takes a lot of people with him, and all of a sudden he's taking these risks not only for him, but also for other people. And now we get to the part that I want to see if you can catch what is the defining feature that Abram has in his life. So let us continue with the story. It says in verse 10, "Now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarah his wife, 'I know that you are a woman of beautiful in appearance, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, "This is his wife." Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake.'" I hope that you catched it. I don't know if you have, but here is where the defining feature of the life of Abraham looks. He takes the easy way. Yes, he takes a lot of risk, but he's also taking the easy way out. See, we don't get a lot of background story from what happened in Haran or what happened even in the previous city before that in Ur of the Chaldeans, but we get this idea that he's traveling from place to place, and all of a sudden God is trying to change his life. And the reason why we believe that Abraham has this problem of taking the easy way out is because it's a pattern throughout his life. Think about the future stories that will come if you have listened to them. If you haven't listened to or read these stories, I invite you that you read. And you will see that Abraham, more often than not, tries to take the easy way out. But God is trying to change him. And he's trying to change us as well. See, we here see that Abram receives a call from God, a call to be blessed, a call to be a different person, because he has been moving around, and not for a good reason. He has been moving around because of the famine, but also because of the pattern in his character. But God is trying to make a shift in that. He's trying to make him a better person. So here we're going to see a little bit more of the story of Abram. And when they get to Egypt, all of a sudden he says, well, I don't want to be killed. I want to survive, right? That's what he's trying to do all this time, moving from place to place. But in order to survive, I have to lie, or kind of lie. Sarai and Abram were kind of related. They were distant cousins, if you will. At this point, this is what we get from other annals, from the churches, and also from historical records. We see that they were semi-related at this point in time. And of course, back in the day, everyone was related one way or another. But here we see that Abram decides to not tell the truth. He decides to take the easy way out. But let us continue with the story. When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake he dealt well with Abram. And he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Again, we see that in this passage, God intervenes because he doesn't want Abram to just take the easy way out. At the beginning of the passage, he said, "Come with me. I will make you a great man. I will bless your family, and in you all the families of the earth will be blessed." Now we see here Abram trying to take the easy way out, trying to go just with the flow and just say, hey, technically you're my sister. So just say that so that my life may be spared. We can all live in harmony and we can stay here and not have to go somewhere else. Of course, the land of Egypt was one of the richest lands at the time. And in this specific time period, they try to, of course, attract more people to their land in order to, satisfy them because of the famine. But Abram is trying to journey from place to place. He's just taking the easy way out. He's not sticking it out. And he tries to lie in order to get his way and just stay in Egypt. But we see that the Lord says, no, you're not going to continue being the same person. You're not going to continue just taking the easy way out. You need to own up to your responsibilities. And here we have Abram being transformed in the first part. Now, I want to kind of paraphrase chapter 13. We may not have a lot of time to see that in chapter 13, we see a little bit of the progression. So whenever we see here, we have Abram, he went from Egypt, he went back to the Negev, so to the region that they were before. And now that they come back, Lot and Abram are very rich. It says now Abram was very rich. He has silver and gold, and he sojourned from the Negev as far as Bethel and Ai. And then we have Lot, who also is with Abram, and he's also rich. So chapter 13 sets it up to this clash of two millionaires, if you will, at this point in time. And when you have a lot of people in a very cramped space, well, you know what happens? Conflicts kind of start to happen. So here we have a little bit of what happens with Abram. So he starts to see the transformation of his life. Then Abram said to Lot, verse 8, chapter 13, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left, I will go to the right, and if you take the right, I will go to the left." Now, this may seem insignificant because Abram is the one that is kind of causing the problem here. There's friction between all of the different families that are living in this very small land. That's why he says it's not the whole land there for us. Why don't we just take one or the other? But the first thing that we see, and as we continue journeying with Abraham through the Genesis, we're going to see that Abram's character is starting to change. And we see here the first defining feature, that Abram is changing. And that is that he decides to give up his right. He was the older one here in the relationship between Lot and himself. And he decides to take down his right to choose first and give it to Lot. So we start to see a selfless attitude in Abram. As you see in the previous chapter, just after God has promised him the blessings and the amazing things, he has been very selfish. He has taken the easy way out and say, well, I don't want to die. I just want, whatever happens to you, Sarah, I don't care. I'm pretty sure that many wives right now are not very happy. If your husband were to do that, I think not a lot of good things will result out of that. But that's because we live in a different culture and things of that nature. But at the same time, the same principle stands. Abram is just taking the easy way out. He's not standing for his family. He's not standing for his wife. But then the next chapter, we start seeing a redemptive feature. We see that God has made some changes in Abram. He has taught him a lesson. And now he starts to being selfless. He's not selfish anymore. See, the easy way out would have been for him to choose the best part of the land. But all of a sudden, he decides, you know what? I'm going to do something good for my nephew. I'm not going to look out for me first, but I'm going to look out for others first. And this is, I think, the lesson that I think God is trying to teach us today. With a lot of things happening in the world, the pandemic still happening, there's a lot of political unrest here in the United States. There's a lot of just infights between our lives and the things that are happening around the world, that it is very easy to just go the frictionless way. The way that it doesn't take growth, it doesn't take for me to sacrifice. It just takes for me to do my preferred thing. It just takes for me to go my preferred way and not care about anyone else. That's what essentially the world does. We don't need to go and sacrifice for other people. We just need to look out for number one. But what we see in the story of Abram is someone who is willing to take a different approach. Someone who is willing to be transformed. And this is not an easy process. It's not something that happens overnight. See, as I told you, my defining feature is usually my voice. And yes, from time to time, I still falter. I still have issues where my voice gets raised really quickly and people think, oh my goodness, is he mad? Is he saying this? Or maybe I get into a kind of like a match of discussion or debate with a couple of my friends. Especially I can think of a couple that I get really riled up, right? And sometimes I do have those moments. I have those moments where I falter. But I have to remember that that's not the end of the story. That God is trying to make a transformation in my life. Yes, people may know me for who I am right now. But that doesn't mean that I cannot change. See, sometimes we are told something about ourselves our whole lives that we start believing that we cannot change. And in this case, we see Abram, a defining feature of him is that he's taking the easy way out. He's moving from Ur to Haran, from Haran to Canaan, from Canaan to Egypt back and forth. And he's taking the easy way out. He's just saying, I'm not going to stick it out here. I'm just going to go to a better place that has better lands, that has better things. But in chapter 13, we see that Abram's starting to change, that he is not taking himself as the most important person, but that he's putting others first. And I think that's the lesson for us today. In order for us to change, maybe we need to look out for others first. And in that process, God is going to teach us lessons to perfect our characters. See, God says that he wants to make you a better person. He wants to make you a better son and daughter of his. So that is why we ought to listen. We ought to look at the Bible, look at the stories, and I invite that you look into the story of Abram and that you take your time in order to decipher what is it that you truly need from the Bible to change your heart. Again, we're told stories again and again and again that we are this, that we are mad, that we do this, that we have bad habits, and we start believing them. But we have to look positively into the future. I have one last story to close this talk with you, and that is from the book Wrapped. The author of the book Wrapped had cancer. This is a memoir from somebody who is a cancer survivor. And they detected cancer on her life maybe when she was around in her 40s or 50s. I don't remember the exact age at this point in time. But in her book, she starts, Dr. Gallagher, that's her name. It came back to me. Dr. Gallagher in the book Wrapped comes and says that whenever they detected cancer in her life, she had two options. She had the option to focus on that cancer and make her life miserable, or start looking positively into the beautiful things that she had in her life. Her family, her career, the grandchildren that she had, and all of the amazing things that were happening in her life. So she had two options: to be defined by what people said that she had, or to define something better for herself, to fight, to have a fighting chance. A lot of us sometimes get diagnosed by other people with something terrible that we have, that we do, or that we have consistently done over time. But that doesn't mean that is the end. We have to look positively instead of negatively, and to rise to the challenge, to fight, and to become better people. In her book, she describes how in her journey throughout this time, that focusing on the positive side of life allowed her to discover other areas of life that she had never thought about. And to me, when I was reading this, it made me realize that sometimes I myself look at the negative things. I look at the negative things even with Abram, but we have to focus on the positives as well. We have to focus not only on those negative things that are happening or that have happened in the past, but we have to look at the positives in other people, in ourselves, and to rise to the challenge and to be better people. At the final words, and especially throughout, she collected a lot of research data, and not only about her, but about other cancer patients. And she noticed that those that focus on the positive things that they had, despite of their sickness, despite of their diagnosis, they started to make better improvements in their lives, and they had a better fighting chance to survive the cancers. So here we have an example from science as well, that yes, we may be diagnosed with a sickness, or we may be diagnosed with a certain temperament, but that doesn't mean that is the end of the story. We can change, we can become better people, and we can become truly people that love God and love others. Thank you for watching this video, and for those of you at the church, thank you as well. Hope that you learned something new today, something about the life of Abram, and next time we're going to continue this journey. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.